Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, it seems like Zelensky is losing it, or at least he's losing the sense of reality. I think he really got to that point where he really thinks that he is very important. Or he's just the orders that he receives from his handlers are requiring him to act this way, because only a delusional individual could make statements of this magnitude. So let's see what this the greatest general in the world said. This article comes from Ukrinform from 17th of August 2022. And this is what Zelensky, the president of the Ukrainian people, says. Russia must pull from Zaporizhzhya nuclear power plant unconditionally as soon as possible. Now imagine that Stalin, for instance, or Hitler, one of the two, or whomever, let's say Stalin would tell Hitler, you gotta go back. You have to pull out of Ukraine as soon as possible, unconditionally. What do you think Hitler would have said? He probably would have said, jawohl. Keep going, guys. This guy is delusional. First, he doesn't have any power. Just to go, what's going on here? He doesn't have any power to dictate that. The only power he's got is one. The blackmail of hitting shelling the power plant. That's the only thing he's got. As long as he's telling everybody else that he's going and willing to do that, he's got power. Unless he's not taken out by, I don't know, someone who's a little bit more mature than he and his handlers. Because other than that, what can he do? To tell someone this. All right, well, let's see. Maybe he's got a point. He says here that only absolute transparency and controlled situation at and around Zaporizhzhya nuclear power plant can guarantee a return to normal nuclear safety. Well, why do you assume that Russians are incapable of controlling the situation at and around Zaporizhzhya nuclear power plant? Well, don't shell them and everything will be just fine. So I'm just saying, I mean, it's a war. After all, it's a war. Those guys took over it. You wanna shell it? You do it. But don't blame the Russians are shelling us from there under the cover of Zaporizhzhya. How were you kicked out of that location? I want to know that. In 10 days. I don't know. And now it says that's according to the latest address to the nation delivered by Zelensky. Diplomacy in the interest of our country is very active these days. No, sure. First of all, today's ceremony of presenting credentials. Okay, that's they talk about political lackeys. That secondly, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has already arrived in Ukraine. We will work to get the necessary results for Ukraine. He really thinks that those guys are, I don't know, at his disposal. Thirdly, Ukrainian diplomats, our nuclear scientists, and the IAEA are in constant touch. Now they are working on sending the IAEA mission to Zaporizhzhya nuclear power plant. Only absolute transparency and controlled situation at around the Zaporizhzhya nuclear power plant can guarantee a gradual return to normal nuclear safety for the Ukrainian state, for the international community, and for the IAEA. This guy is delusional. I don't know what he's talking about. It's just the Russian army must withdraw from the territory of the nuclear power plant and all neighboring areas. Why? Because you say so? Anyway, Ukraine is, this must happen without any conditions and as soon as possible. Ukraine is ready to ensure proper control of the IAEA, and the relevant mission can be sent to the Zaporizhzhya power plant in a legal way. Now, just think about this. Let's start with the basics here. Is Ukraine, as of now, if you look, is Ukraine winning the war against Russia? Is it? I don't think so. Is it losing? I don't know if it's at this moment if it's losing, but as of now it lost because it lost territory. So as of now, you don't have any power shadow to cast over Russia. Nothing. You're not pushing anybody back. Yeah, you did some, they would call them terrorist acts. Some other people would call them, behind the enemy lines, sabotage activities, which that's what they are. That's fine. I'm not, disputing that. But these are your results. These are your successes as of now that we know. Nothing else. You didn't push the Russians back. You didn't win a major battle anywhere. So in order for you to talk like this to someone who's at war with you and definitely doesn't listen to you, which is Russia or Vladimir Putin, you should be delusional. I understand the United Nations and other guys are over there because the big boss is pushing them over there and to show and all that. I understand that. I remember how IAEA behaved in Iran the last time, about 7 years or so. That's fine. I know that they claim they were spies in it and all. It's all right, that's fine. But that's not an objective, in my assessment, from what I observed what happened in Iran with these guys. They're not an objective institution. And if it is, again, this is a war zone. You, Zelensky, you cannot dictate anything over there on the Russian side. So Ukraine doesn't have the power, as I said, that doesn't have the power, shadow to cast over all this. So that if you don't have that, how can you influence that in a war? You can't. He has no leverage, nothing. And he talks like this in this circumstance. Now imagine that in the next, near future, Ukraine is able to turn the tide, and push the Russians back. So definitely kill Russians. How do you think Zelensky will talk then? If he's talking like this now, that he's not having any evidence that he is winning or anything, how do you think he's going to talk then? Do you think he's going to stop until he wants to get to Moscow? Not he. The guy's behind him. He's just over there. But I'm just using him because it's easy, because he made the statements. Imagine how much clemency will you get from this kind of individual. But it doesn't surprise me, because after all, you have the holiday of Purim, and you can look what happened there, who they purified. So yeah, maybe the Russians will be purified as those guys were purified then. And that's not the only example. Just look at the Old Testament and you find a lot of revenge on better states. So the same here. I don't know. If you have nothing and you talk like that, imagine that you have something. You know what I mean? How are you going to talk then? Dangerous. And I'm saying it's not him, it's the guys behind. So if Russians or Russia has any illusions that they had enough, that the West will treat them, I don't want to say equal, not even equal, then they have, they're doomed. They're doomed. These guys are serious. And these guys seem not to be serious. They're like, let's talk, they are on you. They are on you. You got that? What talk, what negotiation, what, it's way beyond that. Over, it's gone. It's been gone a long time ago. So yeah, Zelensky gives orders unconditionally and right now, as soon as possible, because he said so. Okay, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.